Congress is once again looking to ban TikTok. We've already been through this last year, but this year it's under a different guise. This time, Congress is saying that TikTok, especially, but of course, other social media platforms, are not doing enough to protect children. So, why is Congress always targeting TikTok specifically? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should we as Americans actually want TikTok in the United States? Hey guys, obviously like, subscribe if you like this kind of content, and don't forget to leave comments and ask me some questions. Even if you agree or disagree, I'm always interested in y'all's opinions. Don't forget to check out my community tab, by the way. Sometimes I post questions there or thought-provoking images or different things that are going around, specifically from my Twitter. So if you haven't checked out my community tab yet, please go and do so. So TikTok, again, is under fire. Here is the broad strokes. We're all very aware that TikTok is used for Chinese government surveillance. If you have it on your phone, people have researched how kind of sketchy the application is when it comes to its rights and services, its privacy concerns specifically. Now, this is nothing new, and in fact, Congress and many states had already looked into banning TikTok. So what should we think? Should we actually want TikTok to be banned? Well, we're in a common problem as Americans that this banning of TikTok actually displays very well. And here is that problem. The problem is that without TikTok, the alternative is only American-controlled media. Now, you might think that's okay because here in America, we have freedom of speech, freedom of rights, and American companies are more open to ideas than, say, a Singaporean but really Chinese company such as TikTok. I wish that was true, but it's not. So we find ourselves in these peculiar situations where really we only have a few platforms that are beholden to a very small group of people in the public forum. That is Google, specifically, which owns YouTube. It is Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook and Instagram. It's Elon Musk, who owns Twitter. And then we have TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, or at least the parent company ByteDance. So how does that all relate? Well, you have to think of it this way. When you have foreign actors, certainly it's not a good idea to let those foreign actors influence your populace. And I used to be very for banning TikTok. I don't like the fact that the Chinese can go and scour different resources and information on Americans. We all know that most likely that they are using this as a database to track certain habits. And also, of course, what they would love more than anything else is for government officials, especially their children, to have the TikTok application on their phone. But it gets really precarious because there is information on TikTok that YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook try to ban. Now, of course, since the acquisition of X by Elon Musk, X in America at least has become, I think, the most free speech platform. But that doesn't mean that X still doesn't have its limits. And you're even seeing that now in the fact that the Biden administration is very clearly targeting Elon Musk for what he's allowing to happen on X. Now, whether that's through penalizing him through his other businesses like SpaceX or Tesla, doesn't matter. All they care about is going after Elon. So what does that mean? Well, going back to TikTok, traditionally, if you're a pro-American guy or girl, you would want TikTok to be banned. But we have to deal with the reality that both TikTok and the current social media status in the United States government are selling your data often to foreign actors and often are censoring your speech. When you know that's true, what are you to do? Essentially, every platform has their own freedom of speech guidelines that you have to wade through, and if you don't want to get shadow banned, which happens quite often. And if you're a creator, a content creator, and a lot of your revenue comes from ads, well, now they can cut you off at the knees simply by stopping ad revenue for you and banning and even taking away your channel completely if they don't like what you're saying. So the only thing you can do is to diversify. And in that sense, the more you can diversify your audience by being on multiple platforms, the more you can keep yourself alive as a content creator in order to keep speaking the truth. And even on basic levels, even if your content creation isn't political, it's simply about selling a product or telling us about your lives, things that are interesting, hobbies, activities, still there will always be a fine line. It's interesting because even in our world, you can see you can see social media like OnlyFans. OnlyFans traditionally was supposed to be for creators to get paid for showcasing talent. Now it's a Pornhub competitor, and frankly, all it is about pornography. But it still begs the question of social media in general. If OnlyFans, for example, becomes a safe haven for free speech because it goes all the way in showing pornography, well, you see content creators starting to have OnlyFans accounts just to get the word out. I highly doubt it, but the implication being that if you're trying to survive and get information out in the world, you kind of have to do it on whatever is most openly accessible as a platform. Right now, that continues to be, I think, TikTok. But what's also interesting is the incentives that TikTok can create for other social media platforms to follow. We're all very well aware of doom scrolling. Doom scrolling, for those who don't know, is when you're sitting on your phone and all you're doing is scrolling up, up, up. It's the forever loop of content. It didn't always used to be like that. TikTok invented it. Now Instagram has it, YouTube Shorts has it, and Facebook has it. I'm sure other platforms, even the more decentralized ones like Rumble, have it too. So what does this mean? It means that TikTok is a trendsetter. Their algorithm's incredibly good. And now the way we consume content is different. But if you actually look at some of the content on TikTok, you might actually question why they're trying to ban it. One, TikTok content spreads incredibly quick, and some political issues like the Willow Project, which was trying to defend certain nature reserves in Alaska, spread incredibly fast. TikTok's algorithm allows for essentially a video version of Twitter in which content can expand exponentially because of the way that people are able to reply, comment, and duet each other. TikTok's incredibly good, and I think that's what scares a lot of people in the US government. Now, of course, once again, in the background, the algorithm could be programmed so that the Chinese government could be controlling what information is seen. Who knows what nefarious activities they have planned in the United States if their goal is to control the dissemination of information here in the US. But that as it is, TikTok is still one of the most useful platforms when it comes to the spreading of information. This is why actually you still do have politicians and certain congressmen and women who will post on TikTok. This is why you still have very popular conservative pundits and Democratic pundits, even progressives, posting on TikTok. Why is this? Because of the usefulness of the platform. If you were to argue for a free market, it would make sense to have TikTok on board. But once again, it's tough because we don't live in a free market and TikTok is spyware. But all of this is underlying the assumption that YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X aren't spyware themselves. It's been documented pretty heavily the relationship that Google has with the Chinese government, especially when it comes to your data. This could also be said for Facebook. There are data brokers. Facebook and Google are not necessarily the best of actors, and I could even say the same for Elon Musk. In the world of ChatGPT and different AI, all that matters is your data, and everyone is frankly looking for the best way to absorb as much data from people as possible in order to enrich your own AI models. I will no doubt see TikTok AI here in the near future. It would not surprise me. So if we're going to target TikTok for being Chinese spyware, should we not be using that same standard across all platforms and look at how Google and Facebook are actually actively working with the Chinese government as well? Wouldn't that make sense? But that's not the standard they're being held to. And Google, and you could even dive into Amazon AWS, all have more foundational critical security information from not only the American people, but the American government than TikTok will ever have. And they are freely and openly, if you do enough research, giving that information away to the highest bidder. That is not a good thing. The difference is that those are American companies beholden to the American government. So maybe we should want some foreign actors just as a safeguard against our own government. Now, that's a very peculiar argument because obviously those foreign actors happen to be communists like the Chinese government. However, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're an American citizen, you're in between a rock and a hard place. You don't have many options. And the best thing that you can do is compete for information and compete for people who want your data so that you can at least draw a fine line and get some freedom by having the entities go after each other and, of course, want your data. Now, that's no perfect answer. And of course, the ultimate answer for a lot of people is to go on decentralized platforms like a Rumble or a Nostr and just start posting content on there. But the reality is that because most of people's eyes and viewership is on these bigger platforms and they're more for entertainment, and frankly, some of these things like Nostr are just hard enough to set up to where the average person does not want to deal with it, the centralized platforms are going to continue to win out. That and the ad revenue model of content creation also incentivizes centralized control. So, where do we go from here? I don't think the TikTok issue is going to go away, but it is interesting that they are using it now as we are running up to the 2024 election. And that's what we need to pay attention to. The 2024 election is coming. Everything that happens from here on out needs to be viewed in that lens, whether it's from banking, finance, immigration, healthcare, you name it, things at the border. Everything is now related to the 2024 election. In the past 3 years, the current administration was able to do a variety of things because they knew they were safe, because the longer you have, the more time Americans forget. But now, as the election gets closer, things are more fresh on American minds. You have to be incredibly careful with how you handle political maneuvering. And that makes these issues 10 times tougher. And that's where this TikTok issue then comes into play. There's no doubt in my mind that as TikTok becomes more popular, that you will see various TikTok accounts actually documenting election day itself. I'm sure you'll see various people going live so that people all around the world can watch as votes are being counted. You could do that on TikTok. You could do that on Instagram. You can even do that on YouTube. The more platforms you can do it on, the harder it is going to be shut down. The surveillance states, the surveillance of not only American citizens, but surveillance of the people, populist surveillance, is going to be incredibly powerful this next election cycle. TikTok being as powerful as it is going to be a big part of that.